Montgomery Matters, this program, commend you for the work you're doing, and then your personal donations to make it happen. And you also have, I guess, the partners at the school. So once you deliver from Walmart the pallets to the schools, what does the staff there at the school do? How do they help you?
Well, once I get to the schools from Walmart, we have approximately 6 weeks worth of food for each school delivered in one trip.
Okay.
So I also have a great friend of mine, Scott Shuck from Grosvenor Market, has donated over 10,000 bags that we bring to these schools, so they have bags to put the food into. So once we get the food and the bags to the school, then they have volunteers to stuff the bags. They use children that are in the school to stuff the bags, or they have parents come from the neighborhood and stuff bags. And sometimes they'll do it all at once, and then sometimes they'll do it each week for that amount of kids. The other thing, which is kind of different in a lot of schools, is they all deliver to the students differently. Some actually have the kids come up to the office. They'll say, "Any kids who are in the KIND program, please come up to the office," and they'll give them They'll give them the food in the bag. Or some schools give the food to the teachers, and the teachers put it in the kids' backpack when they're at recess.
Okay.
So they're all different. They all do it a little bit differently. There's no set way.
But the main thing here is, though, you do have the partnership with the schools. The faculty helps. Once you deliver it, they make sure that the kids get the food. And as you just said, some confidentially and some of it may not, but they know.
Right. The plan is to be confidential about it. No one is really advertising. No one really knows about it, who's getting it and who's not. And the system really works very well. We've only had very positive feedback. And once we also get to the school, the building maintenance people help us unload the food, and we help them unload. And you know, it's a pretty quick process. Like I said, it's time consuming, but not overly. So the volunteers typically every 6 weeks put in about 3 hours of their time, and we get the food to the schools, and then we go to work, basically.
Well, you know, the name of this show, of course, is Montgomery Matters, and it highlights what's happening in Montgomery County and people like yourself. So I wanted to go back a little bit to when you first started this program, and you've already said you did yourself, and you're funding it. But the main thing I think that most Montgomery counties don't realize, that these kids, 400 that you've said each week will get it while school is in, if they didn't have this food on the weekend, what would happen? Could you tell us, what would those kids do when Saturday and Sunday?
Well, unfortunately, in many cases, these kids really don't have any food for the weekend, and they come to school on Monday really hungry, starving, and sometimes, you know, it leads to absenteeism, it leads to, you know, not concentrating, there's more sick days, and it's a really big problem in one of the wealthiest counties in the country, in one of the wealthiest countries in the world.
Yes.
I mean, to think of 44,000 kids in Montgomery County, which is approximately 1/3, are really hungry every weekend.
Well, I mean, it is mind-boggling, but thanks to people like yourself, and I know there's others out there that help, it is making a difference. Now, we talked for this segment that we're doing about you and KIND, but you are a businessman. Now, before I ask you that question, how many hours would you say you put into working the KIND program per week? And I know you're getting your website and all that. So.
Wow, that has taken, I would say it has taken me 40 hours a week.
Wow.
For the last 12, 14 weeks. It is nonstop. It's incredible. It's like I'm like running two businesses, but I really get quite an enjoyment out of this business more than anything else. It's out of my heart, you know, that's what's important to me.
And the letter that I did see from one of the faculty members to you says it all, how these kids look forward to it. So I can see how
and it makes them feel belong. It's just, it's such a win-win for everybody. I mean, everybody wins in this situation. The other thing I wanted to say is a lot of these schools have upwards of 80% of the kids are in a free and reduced food plan. So I can only serve, what I do is I limit each school to 50 children at first. I want to see how the first year goes, because I'm afraid that the schools can't keep up with the demand. If I say, okay, I'm going to feed 300 kids, and I bring food for 300 kids, and they can't fill the bags fast enough, and they can't get the food out, my plan can fail, and I don't want it to fail. So the first year I've limited each school to 50 kids, and just to see how it goes. Now, some schools have less and some schools have more, but there are a few schools that 80% of the school is on a free and reduced food plan. So if you have 400 kids,
Yes.
320 are on it. So you can imagine the demand in some of these schools. And the other thing is some of these schools also have more than one program in there helping, not the exact same program, but
Yes.
similar, because they just need help.
Yes.
And the other thing is that some of these schools, they can't even run a typical program that a normal school would run because a lot of these families don't have transportation. They can't make it to food banks. So the only way they can get food is through the school.
You know, I have to say, and I do this show, I talk to a lot of people, but when you just said what you said, it's sort of mind-boggling in Montgomery County, Maryland, that some schools, not all, have 80% of the student population that are getting this free and reduced lunch, and they need this food on the weekend. And what you're trying to do as a volunteer is to grow your program where you can meet the needs of those. And then you said something too that most of us wouldn't realize. Some of the parents don't have transportation. They can't get to the food banks or
Correct.
whatever. Now, how did you find out all this information? Did the teachers tell you?
Because basically, I'm the one going to the schools to try and get my program in the school.
Okay.
I am meeting with the counselors. I'm meeting with the principals. I'm meeting with some of the teachers, and they're telling me that this is a real problem. I met with an organization called Linkages to Learning,
Yes.
which is in Lower Montgomery County, and they're saying that this is a huge, huge problem, and that as much as we're trying to do, they still need more. And
Yeah.
I'm telling them I'm coming, but I can't go at the rate they actually want me to go because I'm afraid that if the program fails, that it's not going to be good for anybody.
Well, you said earlier that you have a plan, which is very good. You have your volunteers, and you have a goal to increase. And you have your partnerships with the staff there at the schools. Now, at Walmart, where you're getting is it 100% coming out of Walmart now?
Correct. 100% of the food's
Have
coming
you
from Walmart.
have you thought of or have you talked about maybe donating some or discounting as the program grows, or is
They
what's your
have
thought?
said that we can get individual store credit, like they would help us, but they really want me to go for the grant money where
Okay.
we go to the big corporation. But I need to be established for a little
Yes.
bit longer, and I
Yeah.
get my, all my ducks in a row, and then therefore I think they said that'd become a more successful, situation. The other thing is I also price them against other organizations, like for instance Costco.
Yes.
And Costco's pretty competitive, but they couldn't beat Walmart on some of the items. And then I also, like I mentioned, my friend Scott Shuck, who owns Grosvenor Market, he actually took and talked to his distributors and saw what the prices that they were paying or charging him, and he couldn't compete with Walmart's prices. So
So you do have a good deal there and have a plan to probably even get better. And that brings me to another question. What are the items that the kids actually get? I'm sure the audience will want to know, what do you put in the backpack?
right, approximately 8 items, and that would include like oatmeal, applesauce, ramen noodles, soup, tuna fish, fruit cup, raisins, things that are fairly healthy. Popcorn, believe it or
Yes.
not, is a pretty good one.
Yes.
The kids love popcorn, of course. Macaroni and cheese, not exactly the healthiest food,
Yeah,
but
but
it fills them up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's pretty healthy food. I mean, and they get 8 items for the weekend and a couple juice boxes.
Have you found that some of the kids that you serve have siblings? So it may be one family, there may be actually 3 kids maybe in the same family. Have you seen that at all, or you haven't gotten to that level?
We have. We've
Okay.
we feed some families, we feed 2 and 3 children
Okay.
from the same family that are going to the same school.
Yes.
Now, once they take the food home, it doesn't seem like anybody's robbing them of
Right.
their siblings are robbing their
Yeah.
food, because of course they'd be talking to the teachers about
Yeah.
it, and we're not getting any of that feedback.
Yes.
I will say we tried to get in one school earlier this year, and they were concerned about a few things, and they told us that they want to start next year. And I said that's not a problem. And what they sent me a letter about 2 weeks ago, stating that one of their families is now homeless, and that they had children that are very hungry, and is there anything I could do? So what I did was I set them up with one of the other schools that's within a mile radius of where they are. So now they're getting food from that school to give to them. And that's just so rewarding to be able to just make a phone call and say, can you help this family? And they did.